This subject's been covered ad nauseum online, but let me show you what I did to install this dust collection system in my shop. I'll try to sprinkle in a few interesting tips along the way. Since I was going through all of this anyway, I went ahead and knocked out a laundry list of other tasks along the way. Changing out the impeller on the dust collector so it'd move more air, and recover some of the floor space from the dust collector's cart by getting the dust collector up off the ground and mounted to the wall. I also added a proper canister filter to keep the air in my shop cleaner, and a Cyclone to help with chip collection and more consistent suction. I also went ahead and piped in all my tools permanently around the shop using hardline tubing. That way I didn't have to drag around a flex hose around the shop. The first thing I needed to do was take this thing apart and clean it. And I have to say, cleaning out a dust collector is the messiest thing I've ever done in my shop. This dust collector's filter bag is basically worthless. I can only imagine all the dust in my lungs from using this thing for so long. And once I got the dust collector all disassembled, I went to work on changing out the impeller. All of these dust collectors basically come out of the same factory with similar parts and standard motors. To take advantage of this, I ordered a replacement impeller from a Rikon model that moves a lot more air than this tiny stock impeller. The larger impeller does increase the peak amp draw, so make sure you have it plugged into a 20 amp breaker. The extra air wouldn't be that big of a deal if you weren't going to have long runs like I do in my shop, but in my shop I have a 15-foot home run and then a 10-foot flex hose that comes down off of that for my drill press. So I added that bigger impeller so that I had plenty of suction so I would never run out of suction through the system. After reassembling the blower, I built an MDF fixture to mount the blower to the wall. The fixture needed a hole through the bottom of the blower to connect the Cyclone, and for ease of installation, I made the hole just a little oversized. Next, I made a bracket to mount the Cyclone to the wall to bear the weight of the dust barrel that would be full of dust at some point. I went with the Oneida 4-inch dust cyclone for this system since I don't have a 3 horsepower collector. And one tip I would say here is that a bigger cyclone isn't always necessarily better. If you're trying to drive a bigger cyclone with a smaller motor, you may not be able to move enough air to get proper chip separation. And I'll show you how well the chip collection works later in this video. Next, I wanted to take care of the issue of my shop air. Technically, I could vent the system outside, but I also don't want to annoy my neighbors, and my wife's garden is right on the other side of this wall. I used a canister filter to minimize the resistance of the motor and maximize the airflow while getting a near HEPA filter level filtration in my shop. There's a well-established company to get these from. It's Wynn Environmental. They have a lot of options depending on how you want to configure your system. I went with this canister filter that was designed to work with a side-by-side dust collection system. It has a removable top so you don't have to cut it. And these canister kits also come with all the screws and hardware you'll need to cleanly mount the filter to the old Cyclone assembly. You can configure this system the same way it's configured in the stock dust collection system, but I chose to block off the top and have the dust bag hang under the filter so it'd be easier to change with the rest of the system up high and out of the way. There's a link to the Wynn Environmental website below if you want to check them out. Off of the Wynn filter, I use a Grizzly cloth bag that cinches up around the canister filter without a clamp so it'd be easier to change and reuse. Those plastic bags get messed up so fast and need patches over time. These bags cost some money, but they'll be the last bag you ever have to buy. I think they're totally worth it. I threw a link down to them in the description below as well. Now that the collector's all ready to go, it's time to pipe it all into all my tools. Since my system has only 2 horsepower, I went with 4-inch snap-lock HVAC pipes and adjustable elbows. In my system design, I wanted to incorporate a few key things. My layout would use hard pipe as long as lengths as possible. I wanted a full 5-foot run straight off the Cyclone with gravity assisting to get the chips into the Cyclone. I also made sure there were minimal bends in the system, so I ran the system diagonally across the shop instead of along a wall. I did end up with one 90-degree bend at a corner, but it's an adjustable elbow, so it's a little softer than a standard 90. The less direction change you can make in a system and the less turbulence and resistance you add to the air, and the more suction you're going to get. But now that the system's all installed and the Cyclone's upgraded and so's the impeller, let's see how well it does with all the tools around my shop. So we'll start at the bandsaw, which is a notoriously hard tool to do dust collection on. I don't anticipate it's going to do super well, but this Laguna 18BX bandsaw has 2 dust collection ports. I still have a feeling the dust is going to escape through the blade guard up here and underneath the table, but if I can keep the cabinet clean, I'll be happy. Start with a before shot of the inside of the cabinet. You can see it's relatively clean. I just cleaned it out before I installed the new dust collection system. It may be a 20 amp system, but I can still control it off these little 15 amp Harbor Freight lamp controls. So let's check the inside of the saw now. If we open this up, hopefully we'll see. Yeah, basically nothing. Nothing, just a little bit on the brushes from cleaning off the tire, but it seems like most 90% of the dust is going in through the dust collection system. I'll keep you guys updated if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter. If I see that the system isn't working, I'll definitely share what's wrong with it and what I do to fix that. I'll show you on the blade guard though that there is still some accumulation. You can see up there on the blade guard up underneath that it's still falling down. I don't know how much suction you would need to get to really get full dust collection on a bandsaw, but honestly, I'm happy with this. This is the last tool and the furthest away from my dust collector that's not just a flat 4-inch hose. So at the very, very end of the system, I've got this 10-foot flex hose. And so this is off of 5, 10, 15 feet of straight run with a couple of extra branches that it's got, I guess, fill with air. And then it comes down to this 10-foot run. So this should conceivably be the weakest spot in the system. So let's see how well the dust collection still works. What is this? 25 feet away from the dust collector. So I've got this bucket of generic wood shavings and detritus from one of my Cyclones. This is from my dust topper that's on my shop vac that I use for cleaning up shavings and MDF and just a little bit of everything. So let's see how the dust collector does with this. And after this, let's check out the Cyclone and see how well it does at separation. So you can see not quite enough suction to suck up the screw and this jigsaw blade, but honestly I'm okay with that because that means I don't have to worry about metal pieces getting stuck in my dust collector. Now let's see how well our 2-stage conversion went. Okay. All right, so you can see, make sure you can see. All right, so you can see this is about the bottom fifth of the barrel is full. Probably not the bottom fifth, but you know, it's maybe like 10 or 15% full. Let's see how much that equates to making it into the bag. So with about 10% of the barrel full, this is how much we're getting in our bag. I'm not too worried about it as long as this stuff's not ending up in my lungs. But you can see down there at the very bottom, maybe, there. You can see just the tiniest bit of dust, maybe like 1 cup. So not too bad. I have to say I am pleasantly surprised with this 2-stage conversion and how well it works. The impeller upgrade is really no joke. As long as you have 20 amp circuits that you can run your dust collector off of, that Rikon upgrade is a huge upgrade. Although when you factor in the cost of all the parts of putting together this conversion, at that point you're really close to getting into some of the professional dedicated Cyclones. So really this is more of an upgrade path than a solution to a problem. I mean, if you look at the total cost all into the system, so the Harbor Freight dust collector is about $200 retail. The Wynn environmental filter runs about $200 for the proper one with the 3 micron separation. The Cyclone that I use here, the 4-inch Oneida, which is a really nice Cyclone, but it's still like $100 to get that at retail. Add to that all the work that goes into this, you know, fabricating your own assembly, and you end up with a 2 horsepower-ish dust collector, the full Cyclone and all that, and you're what, like $500, $400 all in, you know, if you're not valuing your time at all. So it does work really well. I'm really happy with the setup, and since I already had the dust collector, you know, it was already sunk money, so at least I don't have to, you know, sell it or get rid of it, because I doubt it holds much value. But if you were doing this right off the bat to fix your own dust collection system, I'd probably suggest Sink the extra couple $100, buy once, cry once, get a proper Cyclone where it's all sealed up and you don't have to fudge all this together. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this brief kind of tour and some tips about my dust collection setup around the shop. And if you have any questions, please drop them down below in the comments. I like to respond to all the comments. If you want to help support me on my channel, I've got a Patreon page where you can help support to get free access to my plans, or you can just subscribe. It's free. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep your tools sharp and keep your mind sharper.